It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
What is up, heroes of Dominion? My name is Charlie. This is Hero War Central, and in this video I want to discuss a little bit of Guild War hero choice action. It is Saturday and we are in relegation, which means we have to fight for our position. We are fighting for our position in Silver League here on server 25 in the Shadows Guild. For those of you that are not aware, this is my main Kark team. This is my main Kark team server, I should say. And I've got two great targets, the Mage Academy and the Lighthouse. I personally do not enjoy Titan fighting at all. My guild knows this. They don't put me up against any Titans unless they absolutely have to. So let's talk about some hero choice decisions here based on the enemy lineups. Now, I will say this, and nothing against Tim here or this guild as a whole. I like Pi. I'm sure is a fantastic guild. Unfortunately for them, their hero teams are a little bit lower, and I would have loved to have a crack at this 650k team, but there are some stronger players in my guild that will go up against these guys. Just as a point of reference here, the last Guild War team that I use is 628, almost 630,000 compared to this, and we know that Kark can punch way above his weight class. So while the things that I'm about to tell you on how to defeat this particular lineup will be effective, it's not going to be as impactful because I have such a strong power difference, such a strong power gap over this team. But that doesn't change the strategy. There are opportunities for a team like this, 485k, to beat a team that's 630k. And if I'm not careful, if I don't pay attention to the enemy lineups, I could struggle myself and potentially lose. And that would be not embarrassing, but it would be absolutely my fault because I didn't pay attention to the enemy lineups. So let's start front to back and take a look at this team. We have a double tank setup, which is not an uncommon look for a defensive lineup. Luther has an armor artifact. Astaroth has an armor artifact. Martha, as the healer, also has an armor artifact. So here I am with the physical attacking team on offense. I need to be extremely mindful for when those armor artifacts are active. Playing on manual mode is the only way to take advantage of this. I should not, and I better not, use Kark and Faceless during a double or triple armor artifact weapon on the enemy team. So what I like to do versus this lineup, I really love to use Jorgen versus double tank. Jorgen slows the energy gain of the enemy front line, right? And his ultimate will stop energy gain for 9 seconds. He's a fantastic hero when the enemy does not use Sebastian. And guys, you really should be using Sebastian on defense. It will open you up to energy manipulation from Jorgen and several other status effects like stuns, slows, blinds, all of those. Now in this instance, Jorgen is going to push all physical damage back to the enemy Martha, who is a tank, but that's okay. What I'm trying to avoid is stacking armor artifacts when I need to use Kark and then copy him with Faceless. And I am going to use Faceless here. You could consider using Kai in this lineup, considering that there is a lot of low health physical attackers here in Qing Mao and Daredevil. Both of those are extremely susceptible to magic attack damage. However, because of this Luther right here, I have a unique hero in Faceless that instantly counters Luther's jump. Luther will jump to my back line, knock over my Martha's totem if I use Martha, and then Faceless, using his, I think, green ability or blue ability, the uppercut or whatever it's called, will push the enemy Luther back to the other line. This will gather them back up again for Jorgen's basic attacks to drain their energy, but hopefully Jorgen doesn't even let them 2-ult. Now, you could use a healer against the team like this. However, because there's 2 tanks, the overall damage output of the enemy team is going to be low. You could consider going no tank as well against this lineup. However, Qing Mao will chew through my Kark. If I try to use Kark as a tank or whatever lineup you end up using, Qing Mao is very good at destroying non-tank frontline heroes. She's very strong. Now, I will use either Sebastian or Helios in this lineup. Helios will counter the enemy critical hits right there, right? That Daredevil, and she is going to be critting quite a bit. Sebastian will counter the Qing Mao blind. Now, since there's not a Fenris pet, Fenris does an area of effect blind as well, and since there's not another status effect that I really need to worry about, I could use Helios. And Helios provides an armor artifact, so I can use him to kind of protect myself a little bit. But I think I'm going to try to use Helios as a preventative measure against those Daredevil critical hits. Hopefully she ends up killing herself very quickly on this lineup. I am going to switch him over to Axel so he doesn't fall over really quickly. I think we'll be okay using this strategy. You can easily swap Helios for Sebastian in this lineup, and it is definitely possible that you could use Kai. However, Kai versus Luther is a bad idea. If Kai turns and faces Luther when he uses his ultimate, it's going to cause a reduction in damage overall. So let's get into this fight, and we'll do some live commentary as we go. I cannot stress this enough to play on manual in fights like this. You need to dodge those stacking armor artifacts. So let's get into it. Let's see what happens. Let's see how I do. So we have the fantastic cyber skin on Astaroth for both of us. I really, really love that. My Kark is blinding the enemy team with his occasional hits. And I'm actually, it happens quite often. It happens more often than I'd like to care to admit. Now, hopefully we're going to be able to ult several times. Let's go ahead and throw up Axel's ult there. There's Faceless's first pushback. Okay, so Luther was able to ult, and unfortunately the timing sucked. Good news is Kark doesn't care what direction he's facing. And since we were able to give that Qing Mao, we're going to go ahead and use it again. And then again. See, okay, so like I mentioned earlier, the power level of this enemy team wasn't that high. They were going to struggle if they let my Kark ult. But the strategies that I just went over to discuss how to defeat this team will work against 600, 700, 800, even 1 million power level teams here on Hero Wars Facebook and web. Let's take a look at my Lighthouse lineup. So here we go. Here we go with another kind of strategy. This is going to take a different look. We have single tank. We only have 1 armor artifact on the enemy team. That is the Martha artifact. We have a lot of armor penetration. We have a lot of damage here. We have a lot of damage. So I'm going to go ahead and stack my armor artifacts. Even though Martha's not going to have an early opportunity to ult, usually the fact that the enemy has a Zhu means that she's going to be charged up a little bit faster than usual. We have area of effect attacks in Fenris, we have area of effect attacks with Galahad, and we have area effect attacks with Ginger. So usually my Martha, who will almost never be able to ult in a fight, in a general fight, you know, just a regular day-to-day fight in the arena or what have you, we have 3 separate heroes plus a pet that's going to be doing damage to Martha, which means that she's going to charge a lot faster. We do have an enemy hero that does critical hits in Zhu. However, Zhu being a strength-based marksman, his damage output's going to be considerably lower than a critical hit hero like Daredevil or Yasmin even. So I'm not really that scared of him and his critical hits. I could use Helios to boost the extra armor artifacts to get, you know, a 3rd armor artifact here, but I don't think I need it. What I do need, I need Sebastian to remove the blinds that Qing Mao is going to provide, and I need Sebastian to remove the blind that Fenris is going to provide. All right, so this is what we're going to go with right here. Now, you could go either direction. You could either go with Faceless or Kai in this lineup, and the reason why I like either or is you're not really dependent on Faceless to push the enemy back. You can definitely take advantage of Faceless's pushback for the enemy Galahad when he does charge forward to kind of reset the enemy lineup, but none of my heroes have location-dependent attacks. They really don't. If any of these heroes got behind my lineup, Kai would be less effective, but Kai could be a great choice in this instance. Another consideration is if you're using Nebula instead of Sebastian, or maybe if you're using Sebastian and Nebula, you need to be mindful of making sure Nebula stays next to Kark. So Kai and Nebula should almost never be used together. It's going to severely weaken your Kark's damage output. But we're not using Nebula at all. We're definitely going to keep using Sebastian. And let's go ahead and use Kai just because I think that we may run into a little bit of issues finishing off that enemy Martha. And I've been trying to use Kai a little bit more and more lately when I can. There's not a lot of opportunity to use Kai, and I've been working on him for a little bit, so let's give him a shot. Again, you want to play in manual mode in this situation. You definitely want to try to avoid the enemy armor artifacts. You want to time your ults. Of course, Sebastian, you need to use Sebastian's ult as quickly as possible. And often in this situation, Sebastian's ult is going to come up right after Fenris uses his ultimate ability. Let's watch and see. So there you go. Fenris is going to ult. Sebastian's going to ult to just block all that blind damage. It's not even going to matter. Now, like the previous fights, the enemy team is severely lower level compared to my team. And again, nothing against Carl. I've just been playing a lot longer than Carl has. 480k team versus a 650k team. That team does have a chance against higher tier teams like mine, but this is not one of the better defenses. I think that I would swap a hero or two if I were him on defense. Pretty straightforward. I think that I would have enjoyed going up against Grumpy Bugger here, a 647k team. Or like I mentioned earlier, Dennis R, a 655k team. I want to thank I Like Pie for fighting with us in relegation this Saturday. I do apologize. I don't think you're going to make it into Silver League this week, maybe next week. And if you guys are curious on different instances on why you would use Faceless or Kai in a Kark team, the video on the left that's on screen now is going to explain that to you. And if you'd be interested in seeing how to counter fast attack teams with Kark, because there absolutely is a way to counter Kira Blender teams, the video on the right is going to explain to you how to do that. They're a little older, but they still apply today. I love you all. Good luck in Dominion.